I will give you a show like you have never, ever seen before. Why? Because I can.
Shawn didn't lie to us back then. There's no doubt that he has a special place in many wrestling fans' heart as being one of the best performers that ever stepped inside the squared circle. He connected to fans across the globe regardless of what script was given to him. This special ability, accompanied by his in-ring excellence, memorable rivalries, charisma, and the skills to reinvent himself, created a recipe for a superstar that we will still respect till this day. However, there is a time where all of this could have been a pipe dream for us. An argument can be made, had Shawn not returned in 2002, his legacy and career all could have been an episode of What If in WWE, regarding a superstar that had the potential to be great, but his ego and pride got in the way. So to get things started, as we all may know, Shawn had a controversial reputation in the early days of WWE. This was primarily due to his backstage behavior, ego, substance abuse, and refusal to cooperate with management. Michael was known for being difficult to work with and often caused disruption behind the scenes. He had a reputation of being arrogant and demanding, which created tension between both his fellow wrestlers and the management team.
Nobody steals my spotlight. I want it all.
Shawn Michaels can do absolutely anything, any style, to perfection with anyone. When the bell rings, no one is as good as Shawn.
His legendary career started when Michaels embarked on his WWE adventure in the late 1980s, teaming up with Marty Jannetty to create the famous tag team, The Rockers. And Michaels took the approach that many young stars would do. He looked towards his older/veteran wrestler in Marty for advice. And it didn't take long for the tag team to win the hearts of the fans. With their electrifying aerial maneuvers and seamless teamwork, it made them stand out amongst the others.
I was teaching him a lot in the younger years. He eventually passed me, and then I'm learning from him later. Yeah. But at the beginning, to that point, I'd brought him there. We had a meeting with Vince, and that's when he said, we're going to split you guys off, and what we want to do, Marty, is make a star out of Shawn.
And as a result, Michaels was singled out very early on, which led to the WWE creative team to break the pair up in a now infamous barbershop segment where Michaels superkicked Jannetty and then threw him through the window. But rewind back just 1 year, it was reported that Shawn and Marty asked for their release as WCW offered them a more lucrative contract. Now here's where things get a little messy. According to Marty, it was Shawn's idea to ask for the group's release from Vince. Michael, on the flip side of the coin, stated that it was never his idea and he had no clue that the team have asked for their release. Marty claims that Shawn was present when he called Vince and asked for their release, and Shawn appeared to be shocked. Vince would let Marty know in a devilish tone that Shawn called him before Marty did and told Vince that he had nothing to do with Marty and that he didn't want to leave the company. In other words, Shawn sold Marty out, and on many interviews Marty has told the story of how Michael was quiet when he confronted him on this matter.
And I said, Shawn, tell me it ain't true. And he was quiet. He knew. You called Vince and said that was my idea. You had nothing to do with it. And he says, Marty, on the flight home, I got to think about it. And man, you're single. I'm married. You know, your house is paid off. I've still got to pay on mine. I just can't quit right now. I said, well, that's fine. Why didn't you tell me that rather than tell me to call Vince and say I quit?
Jannetty, however, struggled to regain any of his former glory and was always haunted by the betrayal, eventually fading away from TV. So as Michaels gazed out of the barbershop window and walked away, he made it clear that he wanted to be a solo superstar, that he didn't want to share the spotlight with anyone else. Looking back at things now, we can see the early signs of the negative traits in Michaels. Throughout his career in the 90s, he was as selfish and arrogant as he was talented. But even though Michaels parted ways with Jannetty, he still understood the importance of having someone support and having someone there to watch your back in an industry known for its volatility. And this was right about the time the Clique was formed, a well-known group of wrestlers consisting of Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, the 1-2-3 Kid, and Triple H. And they became close friends through recommendation and worked with one another in previous companies. This gave them a strong influence on backstage decision because Nash and Shawn were both main eventers. This led to Vince McMahon having no choices but to meet their demands at times. But he did also mention this in an interview.
They couldn't call any of the shots, but I listened. And they had some really good ideas.
So it ended up being a perfect friendship for Michaels, as he found the protection he needed while being able to politic his way up. One wrestler that felt Michaels' new influence and backstage power was Shane Douglas. He was scheduled to wrestle Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship at In Your House 4. However, Michael had to relinquish the title before the match due to an injury. As a result, Douglas was expected to receive the IC title through forfeit. Unfortunately, his moment of victory was short-lived as Scott Hall compelled him to defend the title. Hall ultimately defeated Douglas, becoming the shortest reigning IC champion in just 20 minutes. As you can tell, the incident clearly demonstrated how the Clique and Shawn wielded their backstage influence to fulfill their own desires. Everyone can see the scheme of them keeping the titles amongst their group of friends, and this is something Bret Hart mentioned in an interview that this was always their intention.
I remember Shawn had come up to me, he says, we was talking about when he got the title, that he was going to work with Hunter, he was going to work with Razor, and he thought he could maybe get some more matches out of Diesel, and that was, for me, was a bit of a flag went off, and I said he's going to work with all his friends.
Another instance of Michael destroying a relationship through his behavior being out of control at the time is when he started seeing the superstar Sunny. She was as popular on screen as she was off screen, and at the time she was seeing real life teenage sweetheart Chris Candido when they debuted in 1995. But on one fatal night, Michael went out partying and had a bit too much to drink and injured himself. It was Sunny who offered to take him to the hospital, and it's been said that Sunny would regularly check on Michael almost on a day-to-day basis while he was being treated, and this eventually led to an affair between the two. Apparently they made the affair so obvious to everyone around them, they even went around showing off photos of both of them on holiday right under Chris Candido's nose. Rumor has it Michaels would even have sex multiple times with Sunny backstage at WWE shows, with the Clique members acting as a lookout while Chris Candido wrestled in the ring.
That escalated quickly.
Michaels didn't care what anyone else thought about the situation. In an interview with former friend and wrestler Justin Credible, he said,
Waltman and Billy Gunn on lookout, watching Candido's match as Skip, and I think Tom Pritchard was there too. Whatever, that doesn't matter, but Shawn would sneak into Sonny's locker room.
An important fact to note is that this coincided with Michael's personal issues during the time, including problems with substance abuse. His behavior inside and outside the ring often reflected this. He felt as though he was untouchable and could get away with anything, because deep down, despite Michael's downfalls, he believed he was the best there was, so no one could tell him otherwise, except for one, that being Bret the Hitman Hart. If there was one man that Michael feared, it would definitely be his arch rival, Bret. So we all know the story by now. Michael was involved in various controversies with Bret, and the infamous Montreal Screwjob in 1997, where he was involved in a match against Bret at Survivor Series. The event saw Michaels winning the match in a controversial manner, which led to the fallout between him and Bret, as well as a negative perception of Michaels amongst WWE fans who believed he played a major role in the incident, which led to Bret Hart punching Vince, knocking him out, and then leaving for WCW. And here's what Bret had to say about the situation.
Carry any hard feelings towards him, and that I had no problem dropping the belt to him. And Shawn looked at me and said, I appreciate that, but I just want you to know I'm not willing to do the same thing for you. And that was it. That's what the screw job was all about.
But it was the events leading up to the match that made it so mesmerizing. Michael and Bret both had similar careers leading up to their WrestleMania Iron Man match. However, this seemed to be the pivotal moment in the breakdown of their relationship. The match was won by Michaels, but after the match was over, Michaels yelled at Hart to get the out my ring while he celebrated his historical title win. Hart would later on say that he felt like yesterday's news to Vince, and the McMahons and Michaels and the rest of the cliques directly influenced them in making Bret a transitional champion for Shawn Michaels. This is what led to the breakdown between the two. However, Hart still wished to remain professional and told Shawn he would always be in safe hands if they ever worked together. Another example of Michaels' attitude and toxicity getting in the way is with Vader. Michaels had concern about Vader's wrestling style, thinking that he worked a little too rough. He believed that Vader's in-ring style could potentially cause him injury. This concern ultimately led to Vader's downfall during his SummerSlam match when he forgot to perform a planned move from the top rope. Michaels expressed his anger towards Vader during the match, and even after the event, he complained to Vince McMahon. And not surprisingly, Vince McMahon agreed with Michaels, and Vader's position in the card started to decline until he was eventually released in 1998. So Shawn Michaels' initial stint in WWE came to a close in 1998 due to a combination of factors. The main factor was a back injury that had been bothering him for several years that was further aggravated during a casket match against The Undertaker. Michaels had stated that his back issues, including a herniated disc, limited his ability to perform at his usual level. But at the time, Michael held the WWF Championship and was set to defend it against Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 14. However, due to his back condition, he wished to vacate the belt in a similar fashion to when he lost his smile. And it wasn't until a real-life altercation backstage involving Michaels, The Undertaker, and their respective crews that changed his mind.
If it hadn't have been done the way it was done, it would have been probably been a very long night for Shawn Michaels.
So it was decided that he would relinquish the title to Stone Cold at WrestleMania. Following his loss to Austin at WrestleMania 14, Michaels took a break to undergo surgery to recover from his back injury, and it was decided that Michaels would go on an indefinite hiatus from in-ring competition to allow him time to heal and rehabilitate. While the primary reason for his departure was the back injury, there was also reports that backstage conflicts and personal issues that contributed to his decision to step away from WWE. And this was it for Michaels. As WWE fans, we didn't hear much about HBK, and this is where the argument comes in. Had he ended his career right here, despite his talent, his title wins, his matches, his promo skills, I think most of us can say that Michaels is one of the best wrestlers to enter the squared circle, but due to his own inner demons, of which he had many, his legacy will be remembered of someone whose ego got in the way. A similar wrestler that had the same run in my eyes was CM Punk. That moment after the Money in the Bank match when he returned with the WWE Championship, to me began the second phase of his run. It's what fans remember him by, so Michael fans have long accepted the reality that they would never witness the showstopper return to the spotlight. And by the time the summer of 2002 rolled around, he had disappeared from our screens for nearly 18 months. There was little discussion about any potential comeback, let alone a return to the ring, but during his time away from wrestling, especially for those 18 months, HBK made a conscious effort to transform himself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. HBK, with the help of his wife's support in giving him a Bible, made a choice to make a conscious effort to self-improve. This led Michael to embrace a newfound faith as a born-again Christian, ultimately shaping him as an improved individual.
He was never taking pills or drinking again, and from that point he didn't. It was an instantaneous letting go of the drugs and alcohol.
As a result, on June 3rd, 2002, with Kevin Nash in the ring, he announced to the audience that a new member will be joining the NWO. The fans held their breath, and when the music hit, the 14-year-old kid in me couldn't believe it.
This right here is my favorite thing.
He got a hero's return as the WWE Universe welcomed him back. I always thought Michaels as a badass, seeing as he was being inducted into the NWO, yet he still came out to his own theme music. And upon his return, Michael honestly went through some of the best matches and went on a tear, delivering classics after classics. To name a few, Shawn Michaels vs Triple H, SummerSlam 2002. His match against Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 21.
Nice.
Who can forget I'm Just a Sexy Kurt?
I'm just a sexy Kurt. Sexy Kurt.
Shawn vs John Cena, the Raw after WrestleMania. Woo! His WrestleMania match versus Ric Flair.
That's why he's the GOAT.
Those two amazing WrestleManias versus The Undertaker.
It was perfect. Perfect.
To put things in perspective, in his final 8 years, Michaels made up for all of his sins of his past. The drinking, the drugs, the women, the backstage antics were all gone. What we got was just Shawn Michaels, the wrestler, the one that didn't care about his ego anymore and just wanted to give back to the wrestling world. For me, he triumphed over his personal struggles, openly acknowledging and addressing his past errors. Michael has not only become a respected figure in the locker room, but also served as a mentor for emerging talents, contributing to WWE overall success. So in 2010, when Michaels made the decision to retire from active competition following his WrestleMania clash against The Undertaker, marking the end to his second run in WWE, he left an everlasting impact on the industry, showcasing his versatility and ability to captivate an audience through his stints. All in all, Shawn Michaels' second run in WWE was a tremendous display of resilience, talent, and the ability to reinvent oneself. It solidified his place among the all-time greats and provided fans with unforgettable moments that will be cherished for years to come. To me, it was the perfect redemption story. But let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to click the like and subscribe button.